Welcome to Fireside Fitness, conversations about what it really takes to grow a fitness business today, brought to you by ABC Fitness. I'm Richelle Volk, your host. Get comfy and let's get into it. I'm really excited to be joined here by Tony Smith today. Tony is the founder of Garage Gym. His background includes leadership. He is an ex-SWAT, coaching, and performance training. But you started by building a gym in your home garage. What was it like? What was that kind of turning point? Walk me through how you went from this career in law enforcement to wanting to open this gym with your wife.
So it's kind of like a blend. It really hard to tell where it started or some of the steps because it was such a long process, but I'll knock that down into as concise as I can get it. I was at one point the SWAT team leader, and our duty was to stay fit. Like the coolest part of that job, honestly, was I felt like a pro athlete. Some days I'd start my day like we got paid to work out. And then we'd hit the
Go the
sauna,
workout
make a
plan. We
pro.
want to know the workout.
Yeah, get paid to work out, grab a sauna, make a protein shake, and then go do some cool things. And but we are super, super busy, and our team's fitness was kind of like suffering, I think, because of that, because we were so tired and wearing ourselves out, mentally, physically, working incredibly long hours, on call 24/7. And so part of my job was to keep that team, as the leaders, to keep them on point, keep them fit. And I loved fitness. And Danny kind of saw me getting burnt out too, and surprised me and sent me to Salt Lake City to meet up with an old friend. His name was he's pretty popular online, Bobby Maximus, and he was running a gym called Jim Jones, which is famous because they trained the Spartan warriors in the movie 300.
Okay, no big
So he
deal.
was in charge of that, and he has actually my roommate at the police college. He was a Toronto cop and a UFC fighter, and he quit and went and took that job. So I went down there, and she surprised me with the trip, and he just happened to be doing a seminar that week. So I took the seminar, got a course, and then I started bringing it home and applying it to my team. And I noticed that our training was becoming all of a sudden really fun. Like guys were looking forward to it, and you know exponentially we were working better together, and guys looked healthier, happier, like we were doing better things and staying fit at the same time, fitter. And that just led to one thing after another, and I got removed from the team because I was tenured out. Long story, but like a new boss came in, took some new rules, and next thing you know, I was like, I'm not going to go in to train anymore. I was a little bit bitter with the situation, and I said, I'm going to spend all my time in my home gym, which I had just kind of built in and had a couple of mats. And a bartender told me what he was paying some trainer. I said, just come over. I'll show you some stuff. I got all the courses. And he's, he started coming. He said, can I bring a couple of friends? And they started throwing me a few bucks. And we bought a bigger house with a bigger offset garage. And Danny started to take her courses because she was on maternity leave. And one thing led to another. We had like 40 people coming to our house. And it was kind of
Wow.
like Fight Club. People would knock on the door, but we were still active duty. She was a police officer too and undercover, and I was SWAT. So we were dealing with the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
But then people are knocking on our doors like, is this the garage gym? We're like, who sent you? Go around back.
Yeah.
And
Was it like a secret passcode or like a secret door knock or something?
yeah, it was getting really weird. And I was like, it was making me a little uneasy. And honestly, it was not very fair to the neighbors and stuff. Like Saturday mornings, our driveways are full. They're trying to have their coffees, and there's, people doing burpees in their side yard. And we decided to go kind of all in. And we just went. I remember going the first time we went to look at the first brick and mortar and thinking, there's no way we can do this. And then like a year to the day, we were in there and operating. And when we went in there, we didn't have a sign. I don't even know if we had a business permit. I don't think we did anything. And we went from like 30 to 40 people to 100 in like a second. It was wild. And it was all by, kind of applying the same thing. So long, very long story, and the shortest way I could tell it, but it was pretty sweet. Pretty
So
awesome.
very organic growth, first of all, like very
Very.
grassroots, which I love. And these kind of initial people that were coming, was it mostly through just your networking, your kind of personal connections? You talked about your bartender, or what do you think it was the workout method and just, knowing your background as SWAT and, this guy knows how to lead a team. He knows what the workouts are to do. Do you think it was a little bit mix of both? What do you think really attracted those initial clients?
I think it was a little bit of mix of both. Like bartenders are always great people, probably to have as clients. They know everybody, just like the talent. Like hairdressers and barbers are good people to target. Talk about that in marketing strategies if we get to that stuff. But like those guys were great, and girls, and one the bartender brought in the waitress brought in her friends, and they kind of knew me from downtown. Like downtown Windsor was like a real happening place back in the day, and I spent a lot of time in the bars and policing the bars. So like they kind of knew us, and I think the undergroundish niche to that, and that we were doing things that like our workouts, like I laugh because High Rocks is so popular now. And that was like what we were doing like 15, 20 years ago. It's
Oh,
like,
totally.
they kind of looked like that. They weren't CrossFit, they weren't weightlifting. The people just were attracted to that. And I think like our ability to kind of like bring people together was all cyclical, and I'm not sure which part was more important, probably all of them. And it just pieced together slowly. And I think people just like to be part of something different. Like when we opened, we took our little garage, our little house gym, and we took all the stuff and just put it up against the windows. And
Yeah.
there was like maybe 25 feet of floor and 75 feet of nothing and one rig and no sign, and people just kept coming in. And I think it was like the sweat on the windows, and there was no heat, there was no mirrors, there was no TVs. Nobody at that point, I don't think anybody had seen anything like that.
We were really building this early community, right? And because these people do also know each other, I think there's already that sense of a bond just because, this person knows this person who knows the waitress, who knows the bartender. And I think that's a really good thing to just put out there for anybody that is thinking about opening a gym or a club is never underestimate the power of just good word of mouth and talking to people in person to grow that initial kind of client base, because I think people are so like, okay, I got to be posting social media, and it's so overwhelming to even know. And we'll get into the marketing conversation, like you said, in a bit more detail later on. But I think you really can't underestimate in the early days just the power of tapping into your own network, right?
Absolutely. And culture, and it's a real buzzword now. And I think we were the first one, like we weren't the first ones probably speaking of, but we were really hammering that home from the start. And you know what? I guess when we both had those jobs, we didn't really have anything to lose in terms of like anybody who's coming to my house, like you were a guest, even if they're paying me. And if you weren't gonna like meet our standards of like, and it wasn't like standards of like you needed to bench this or run this fast. It was the effort,
Yeah,
and that has never changed. It's like we say effort, support of the person next to you, and don't be an asshole. And that's it. That's what it comes down to. So if you can meet those three standards, you're welcome here. But people who didn't, it was in the early days. I think the only time anybody ever saw anybody to ask them to leave the gym, like, hey, you don't fit here. It's not that you're a bad person. Just I'm gonna ask you to leave. And that kind of is carried on through the members. And there's a level of standard of expectations with the person next to them that if they don't fit it, they kind of just they start to fit in, or they get lost.
totally. Yeah. And taking it back a little bit more, going from finding that first brick and mortar space when you guys kind of start to outgrow, because you said you bought a bigger house, which I assume bigger garage first, and then you were like, okay, this is still too much to manage. So then you went to your first brick and mortar. Is that kind of correct? Walk me through that process, and when was kind of the breaking point, and how did you find this space that you guys ended up initially going into?
Yeah, the house, I mean, Danny would have killed me if I bought it just for the gym, but it was, what's funny as I bought the house without her seeing it. So it was like it was one of those houses. It was gonna go if we didn't make the offer, and she was away. And I called her and I FaceTimed her. I said, I think this is the house we gotta buy, and I bought it, and it had an offset like more like a barn.
Yeah.
So an offset garage, and it was bigger, like 2.5 cars, so it could fit a lot more people, a lot more stuff. And I pretended like I didn't buy it for that, but we did. And now
Yeah.
circling all the way back, it's now my home gym. Like I've actually re-equipped it
Oh,
after
awesome.
peeling everything out of it, re-equipped it. And it's kind of like where, her and my kids and I get to spend some alone time, which is awesome. But yeah, and then going from one space to two spaces to three spaces, and the one that I sit in now is our headquarters. It's the first one that we ever owned. However, a year ago we moved into like, finally got like a real building, a nice building that was built for us. So
Oh,
it's
nice.
been
Congrats.
nonstop. And like this weekend we're upgrading our second facility massively. So it's just like it is really nonstop if you want to continue to keep people and attract people. And that's I think where we stand apart is our ability to retain, first of all.
You guys didn't take any external investments, any kind of fundraising, like things like that. So how did you fund this initial expansion? Was it just solely from the member base that you had? Like you just kept feeding it back into the business, or how? Because I think that's also something people struggle a lot with is they have this big dream. They want to open this thing, but they find the financial part very hard to navigate, right?
Right, and it is. And I'd be lying if I said that the police like we had a good wages. Like I don't know how many American listeners, and I know police officers don't necessarily get paid as well here, but like in Canada, police officers they're making six figures for the most part if you're working overtime. So that really helped take some pressure off us, but it also added a lot of pressure because I was working midnights and going from a 12-hour midnight shift to coach a 3-hour shift or 4-hour shift at the gym, to wake up and coach again, then to go into work midnights while having two babies at home. So it alleviated pressure, but it caused pressure. So there was both of that. But like the biggest step we made in opening our business was we honestly we sold people what they believed in. And so we took the people that were at our house, our OGs, some of those people who had, there was people like some of my best friends who like, I didn't charge them to come to my house. They always wanted to pay me, but I said like, no, like, you're coming to my house. I can't take your money. And they always wanted to pay us. And we just basically, we did something with them. We said, hey, we will sell a lifetime memberships and this is what we want to do. And this is our dream. And the lifetime membership is less than what we charge for 1 year now.
Oh, wow.
And we
Yeah.
said, if we stay, and that was my strategy, if we stay open 1 year, you end up ahead. And if we stay open forever, you're gonna end up way ahead. So as long as I last 1 year, you're gonna get your money back. And we had 20 people invest with us, and that gave us a huge sum of money. And they still to this day all come here. They're lifers. They're the only people that have their own lockers.
That's
And like I will
awesome.
never ask them for a dollar. I mean, sure they buy a t-shirt here and there and they do what they can to support us, but without those people, this place doesn't start. So we were able
Wow.
to have a lump sum of money to buy the first, upgrade of equipment we needed and get us off the ground.
That's incredible. Okay, so you launched this lifetime membership, and that is so right in the early days when you're first opening the gym in the garage. That's kind of what's sustaining the funds, at least to kind of get things up and rolling initially. Then, just to,
Right. Yeah, that helped us buy the equipment and stuff we kind of needed. See, because we just had a little bit in our garage and it was from used
yeah,
garage sales all over the place and still is. We still are proud to have like some garage sale items out there.
gotta be scrappy, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. And we use that and then our, making the extra bit of wages, working our butts off at the police department, helped to pay, to keep us where we could afford to lose a little bit of money to start.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that early drive comes from you, and I know I'm sure this reflects your wife Danny as well, but especially your personality. Because as I was kind of preparing for the interview and looking through your social media, I see this picture you shared of you. I think it was like before the sun is up, sitting on your couch with your cat, reading a book, having your coffee, and you're like, early in the day before the sun comes up, like you're preparing for the day. And I think that can't be underestimated. Just the personality of driving this entire thing forward. You don't just, roll in at 10 a.m. and, say hello here, do a little bit of work here and expect this thing to grow. Like you are working hard, you're putting in the hours. So I want to talk about you. Tell me a little bit more before we get into more of the business side of things. What does a day in the life look like for you now? Do you still do that? Do you still wake up before the sun is up and spend that time on yourself, on your business?
Yeah, I mean, people were making fun of me yesterday, and here some of the OGs were in here. They're like, "Look what you've become," because I was like, kicking people out of the gym, and now I like reading with a cardigan on and a cat. I used to hate cats when I was a police officer. We go to some gross places with cats, but that's a whole other story.
We need to
But
insert a
yeah,
picture of that post in the
yes,
editing here,
yeah. So they're making
post
fun
edit.
of me because they say I'm soft now because I'm so nice to people. But it's been a growth for me personally. I was like, man, I was 30 and I was bashing in doors and partying and lifting weights for totally different reasons than I am now, right? And now I'm a father and I have I had Danny back then too, but like things have changed a lot and I've grown a lot, calmed down a lot too. So the day in life for me, like I still work the gym Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning. So we open at 5 a.m. and I am the first thing people see in this gym right here, our main headquarters on Monday. Then I go to gym number 2 on Tuesday and gym number 3 on Wednesday. And that's how I start my week. We're at the point where yes, we could fill those shifts with other people. However, me working those shifts, I think it keeps me more connected to my people, to my culture, to what's going on in the gym, to every single person. I know every single person's name, their husband, their wives, what they do, how many kids they have. And I think that keeps me connected to my staff too. Shows them that I'm like, I am still leading from the front. I'm still there mopping the floor, right there next to them. And what's helped me to do as well is like working a little bit of shifts allows me to pay my staff better. And I think that's like building my team. My team's been with me. My right hand has been here for 10 years. She quit her job to join me. My bookkeeper quit the bank, being a bank manager, and joined me. And
Wow.
now she worked on the floor forever. Now works just my books. My brother-in-law quit his job, works for us. And like we don't lose employees. They stay here forever, or they become police officers and firemen. I've had like I
Love
think I've
it.
had like
Well, they
eight of them
trained well
become
for
first
it, right?
responders because they come here for their reference. But
Yep.
I appreciate that too. I know that we're helping society in other ways. So I get up in the morning, I hit those gyms, and then typically my afternoon is making some social media posts, doing the marketing. That's still the seat that I kind of handle. And then I kind of just lead my team. I have somebody who does sales. I have somebody who's charged of retention and somebody, my wife runs all the operations and I kind of lead the vision. and drive the culture and those kinds of things. And I do chats like this. I work on my other kind of avenues that we talked about, my speaking gigs and those kinds of things. But for the most part, I'm still pretty hands on the business. And then Thursday and Friday, if somebody needs a day off, I'm there for them.
Well, I think that reflects in the community and the culture that you've built at Garage Gym, because really you are, like you said, the driver of it. And that's very intentional, I think. I think it's easy to become a little bit ambiguous with what the mission is and what the purpose is and what it's all for when you don't have a founder who's hands-on. And I'm not sure, I'm not saying it can't be done, but I think, the way that you've trained, your background, same with your wife, I think that's all reflected in probably the style of workouts that you guys do, the way that people talk to each other in the gym, right? Like you said, the respect and not being an asshole, that's all driven by you guys. And that's very intentional. And I think that comes across. So you guys have done a great job with that.
Thank you. That is the goal, to stay that. And that's the part we're never going to lose. And it doesn't mean I'll always be in the gym, but you said something that I think is really important for anybody who's listening who wants to do this. You can't just roll up here like at 5 in the morning, whether you have three gyms or one gym or train from your garage, throw a can of Red Bull on top of the other cans of Red Bull in your messy freaking car, barely tuck in, brush your teeth and train. The gym opens at 5. I'm up at 3:45 doing a little bit of stretching, doing some waking up, reading a book, hanging out with the cat or the dog, because it just helps me to, be prepared so that when I go in, because this gym is supposed to be everybody's best hour of the day. That's my goal. I want it to be your best hour of the day. So when you walk in, I'm setting the tone for that right away. And it's not by being, hello, I'm not that chipper person, but very friendly. I'm waiting for their very, very prepared and excited to see these members, and thankful and grateful when I see them leave the gym at the end of their hour too.
Well, I think that's what makes people want to stick around when you're talking about retention and things like that. It's like, do people greet you by name when you walk in? Do they ask you how your wife and your kids are going? And a little bit goes a long way, right? It doesn't have to be much, but I think people can pick up on that personal touch. And when you feel like you're just another member, another number, that's when you start to just feel really disconnected from your space. And like you said, fitness, it is such a core piece of life. And I don't know, how old are you, if you don't mind?
I'm 47 years old.
47? Okay.
47, yeah.
Let this be a testament to people watching on the video that if you train and take care of yourself like Tony, you will also look like this at 47. That's not just flattery. That's honest.
Thank you.
But I think there's also been this big shift, and just to talk a little bit about training and kind of what you guys do a little bit more. When I'm 32, but when I turned 30, I felt this switch turn from, I know I'm not, super old or anything, but this switch turned from, like you said, focusing on fitness for more of those aesthetic goals. You want to look like this, you want to look good in your bathing suit, to really being more functional. I was at the gym the other day, was doing a really heavy bench and just whacked something in my shoulder. I was like, oh, it was like, I didn't prep my body well enough. And I think this really comes down to this shift that we're seeing in, the explosion of high rocks and things like that, where people like you, like Garage Gym, have been doing this for a long time, just not calling it whatever they call it now. It's all trendy, right? But
right.
How, I guess, when you're kind of like creating your programs, or when you're deciding, how you're gonna, even your staff, I'm assuming your trainers, all kind of train with that similar style. How do you kind of develop that with them, and how do you have that reflect what people are looking for now more in these stages of life?
Yeah, so my staff trains here with these people. They do our program. If their program is good enough for my members, it is good enough for us. So there's no staff member training outside of this gym. It doesn't mean that they don't have their own hobbies. Like I mentioned my brother-in-law, he loves high rocks. He's doing some other things to accentuate his training that he does here. But here we really just believe in general physical preparedness, what you can do off the couch every day. And that's always been, for SWAT, that was kind of the purpose. And, in the CrossFit days, everybody always talks about functional fitness. And my argument always was, I don't know that you'll find a job that has more crossover to fitness than smashing indoors and taking down, bad guys and running upstairs. And I never had a need for some of these. In fact, the higher risk movements, those are high risk, and they could take me out of the game, which means that we're now going to go in the door with one less guy, and we can't do that. Right. So that was, that I wanted to have that same CrossFit mentality of being prepared and being able to do anything, but making sure we kept the risk down. And, the way related here to our members is that, whether you're a banker or a teacher, like your job is just as important to you and your family as policing is. Like, it doesn't matter. Maybe mine's a little more high risk and physical demanding, but if you hurt your back or you hurt your shoulder and you can't do your job, you can't provide. So we need to also take that into account. And if your goal is to win the High Rocks games or to test for a SWAT or to do kipping pull-ups because they're allowed. It's going to allow you to test better and get a job. Well, then that's a certain level of risk you have to take, right? But let's not take that risk unless we have to. So make sure that we can gauge that towards the individual, and here we can progress or regress anything appropriately. But we also kind of took the competition part out of it. We do compete in here. The Fridays we have a lot of fun, but on a day to day, like we celebrate a 100-pound bench press the same way we celebrate a 350-pound bench press. It's all to the individual, and we want to make sure that's like appropriate. And all of a sudden, we have a ton of people that are in their 60s, 70s, and a lot of people have progressed with me. They were like 30 with like young kids or no kids to now they're 45, 50 with adult or teenage kids. And it's kind of been a cool thing to kind of see. Our training has kind of acclimated to those people.
Yeah, I think that's why CrossFit is also like why it's so community driven as well is because people feel that and they feel like they're celebrated no matter what they're lifting, right?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
those same kind of roots for sure. And you have something called the 6-week transformation. Talk to me about that. Yeah, what does that program entail, and how did you decide to come up with that as kind of? It seems like it's kind of your primary, primary program that's kind of sold. Is that correct? Or
It's probably the one that we give the most, time
yeah,
time to in terms of like what we show out on our social media, or it's really the only time we sell. We don't spend much time selling in this gym. So for the couple of weeks before that 6-week transformation is the only time you really see our marketing lean towards selling. And it's honestly, it's because I think everybody we get in here, we keep forever. So I know if we can get somebody in the doors, so it's like people think you can't make a difference in 6 weeks. You can, because if those 6 weeks are your first 6 weeks for 5 years, we made a hell of a difference for you. And so we really, really pushed that. And where did that come from? I'm affiliated now, but as a member of now, I kind of work for them as well. The Business of Strength, which is some guys out in New York City New Jersey actually, who took the Jim Jones courses with me. And they were the only ones who had a real business back then. We were all operating in our garages. And
I
we'd
love
ask
it.
them so many questions about business that they're like, man, there's a freaking niche in this. They
The
started
Grog
selling
Squad.
business consulting. And they were the ones who kind of like got me on this 6-week transformation the first time. And now I think we ran our first one 8 years ago, and now we're running like number 16 or 17 coming up in the spring. And it's been a huge seller for us from like, getting external people in. But also wild is that we will sell 70 to 80 internals. And it's not because people have gotten out of shape in between. It's because every single time we talk about raising the floor. And so for 6 weeks in those challenges, you're kind of hanging on the ceiling, just like you would for a competition for High Rocks or CrossFit or police SWAT tryout. You're hanging on the ceiling because you're trying to test. You're trying to test your like what's the best thing you can do. But at the end of that, ideally, you're going to come out with a higher floor that you're going to stand on every day. And so people will redo this thing over and over and just get sharper and sharper and sharper at their day to day and fitter and healthier and healthier, which is going to hopefully allow them to live longer and better. Like my mother, who comes here, who's 70 years old, and like she's outside playing floor hockey with my kids. Like
I love it.
that's what it's about. That you start to realize like that, man, my mom versus a lot of the people her age, that's where I want to be. I don't want to, I want to get dirty with it, but I want to be wiping my own butt, right?
No,
As long as I
totally.
can.
And so, not to give away too much of your proprietary information with the 6-week transformation
Oh,
program, but maybe like a little bit more high level, is this something that you're delivering, like the workouts, the whole system? Is it kind of like a hybrid where it's partly online? Are there tools involved? Is it strictly like in-person sessions? Like, what is that? Yeah, without giving away too much, you don't
I
want people to
mean,
steal it directly. But
I mean,
yeah,
through
what
the
else do you want to
pro,
share?
we're here talking about Trainer. I think Trainerize is one of the things that like really helped our 6-week transformation because we're able to we're giving people habits. They can take their workout wherever they go with them. But for the most part, it's people in here. But we have a guy who's doing one right now. We just finished a 30-day version, a little mini version. We don't do it as strict. It's a lot more low key. And he did the whole thing. He's a member of the gym, but he did the whole thing while he was working in
Wow.
other places. So like there's all kinds of ways we do it. But for the most part, it's going to be in here. It's going to be habit tracking. It's going to be providing meal plans, higher accountability. The app allows us to do that. We also use like funny like grade school things. Like right now, we have just everybody's name and it says day one. Did you do your stuff? Give yourself a sticker. And
Love
that
it.
sticker has gone so far. And that little like tracking mountain that you guys have in the app
Yeah.
that like shows people climbing like that, and the little thumbs up that people get from the PR, like those are funnily very very like
You got to
effective
gamify it a little,
measures
right?
like people just love that thing. They're so proud of that.
That's awesome. And so you have like the group chat feature set up then for your
Yep.
people that are all in the challenge, or is it just all members have access to that if you're a member at Garage Gym in general?
Yeah, so we replaced the like kind of like we used to have Facebook groups and all this stuff, and I
Yeah,
hated doing it to be honest with you.
hate it.
And so we replaced that with the app. So when we got the app because of COVID to keep us together, but we've kept it and it's never going anywhere. So we have the app. We have all three gyms have their own group, right? And then from that we run a challenge. We'll open a group for just that 6 week challenge.
Oh, okay, awesome.
And usually from that, we'll often have like team portions of that challenge, and every coach will get like 6 teams, and they'll have each their own little group. So it's kind of we have like a big group for, big information, and then we got a small coaching group to keep each other accountable or to work on, what I theme all of our 6 week transformations. Like one was the amazing race. So I got them, they got to go out and climb this hill and find this certain thing that I've posted up there and read it.
That's
Right. And so,
awesome.
and post a
Wow.
picture in the group. So they got those kind of things too. And we're able to use the app to kind of feature that, which works out great for us. We love it.
And I love how you're incorporating these in-person elements. Like I can just imagine you like climbing a tree and hiding this flag up there. But like I think
Yeah.
that makes it because people always I think struggle a lot with online where they were like, oh, how do you still keep that community and that sense of connection alive when it's all through an app or through a computer, right? Like I think it's so nice to have I mean, obviously you have your in-person gym, but I think it's also nice to have these other touch points that create engagement in the app. That's so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, you put a selfie of yourself getting the clue, or, we did a survivor. We've done a little bit of everything. We did high school cafeteria where we just divided all the gym up based on where they worked.
Yeah.
So, it was like the geeks who do the office jobs, the jocks who do like the first responders. It was fun. And we just kind of have a lot of fun with it.
And your coaches are all active in this chat as well. So they're
Our
also
coaches are
interacting
all
with
over. Our coaches live for this thing. It's huge for them too. Like our coaches are part of what we do here. And like there's a place for the 17, 18-year-old who's just learning, but like our coaches here are adults. Like this is what they do for a living. Like they work at the garage gym, which I'm freaking super proud of. Right? They pay their mortgages, raise their kids. They like that all comes from this place. So that they have a PhD in our members, is what we like to say.
Okay,
Right.
well
So they know our members, they keep pushing them.
let's talk about that a little bit more because obviously you've built an incredible team. And I think that's one thing you're mentioning is so important is being able to have that be your job. Like I've been teaching in the fitness space for about almost 3 years now, but it's always kind of part-time gigs here, picking up shifts here. So it's hard to feel really connected to any one studio or brand. Like obviously you love the members there and you love teaching there, but it's really hard when you have to do shifts at so many places just to make it into a sustainable career. So yeah, like how do you do that where you are able to, make these people your that's their full-time job. They can pay all their bills. Like, and how do you identify the kind of people that you want to bring onto the team? Like, I'd love to hear a bit more about that process.
Yeah, absolutely. We hire based on our values, not your resume, right? So I'd much rather have a person who has a passion for fitness with no formal training, but is a I talk about bartenders, waitresses. My wife, she does most of the hiring, and she loves when somebody has worked in the service industry. And because they just have a way with people. And the girl I talked about, Nikki, who's been with me for 10 years, she had a bartending background, a waitressing background, along with, HK, which was like a perfect combination. But identifying those people, and often they come through the gym as members. And we approach somebody and say, like, hey, we think you'd be a perfect fit here. Do you want to start interviewing with us? And one thing we do, which is a little bit wild, I think, a big ask, but we say, your interview is 40 hours. You can do that in a week, or you can do that. I don't expect anybody to take time off their job to interview for us, but it's free. Like,
Yeah.
if you can't be around here for 40 hours, we got to watch you train. We got to watch you meet with people. Then you're probably, when you're here in the long run, you're not going to be, we have a standard and it's a minimum standard, but nobody here stops that minimum standard. It works for us. So, and that's kind of how we weed that out. We look for our values. Are you willing to give us 40 hours for free? And then we'll start paying you, and clue you in from there. And we're just very open with the money that we make here and how we're going to disperse it and what we have to do to achieve, and setting them like a clear, career path to make sure that they know that there is a future here for them, that there is the ability to, grow their families off of garage gym wage. And by doing so, we have to keep our staff small. So
Yeah.
we have to keep a small team because there's only so much of that purse that we can spread around,
Yeah.
which means we all need to bear more responsibility. So that's been a huge part of it. And like, working in the training areas, like if you only made your money by coaching classes, you would not have a very happy life because you have to work in the morning when people are available for work and work after. So to
Yeah,
work, have a 40-hour work week, you'd have to be working day and night. And when are you're gonna be home and nobody's home,
exactly.
right? And so for this woman here, Nikki, who has a family, she works her morning shift and then she has other duties. She's in charge of retention. So it's like, yeah, if she can give us like say 20 hours or 25 hours of floor shifts, she makes up the other part of her salary by doing retention work, in which we have developed over the years. So everybody kind of wears a second hat so that we can share the coaching hours and share the retention, including me.
Well, there is some really good things here because I just want to highlight a few things like what you just said for the audience. And the first one is that I think people who are wondering how to build community, and they're all, that's the kind of buzzword right now is how do I build community? People know that's good for retention, good for membership and growth. You are literally hiring from these people that are already members that I'm sure other members in the gym see them every day. They already have relationships with them. So what better way to keep your community strong by hiring people that the members already know, right? So that's
Exactly.
I think part number one. And then part number two, I was going to say, it's almost like you're giving them like an ownership, like a stake sort of in the company because they're in charge of retention or they're doing this other job that's more, it seems, geared towards the business's growth, not just, hey, show up, train your clients, teach your classes, then leave. Like they actually feel like they're invested in the growth. It sounds like as much as you are if they're overseeing things like retention. So I think when you can give your team roles like that, that's so incredible to be able to give them that opportunity and feel like they're a part of the growth as much as you are, right?
Yeah, they are, and they are like
Yeah.
it's every day, and they see it, and that's kind of like, we try not to push them into a position, but like you kind of see where people like to do.
Yeah.
And one's in charge of sales, one's in charge of our product, which is training, and one's in charge of retention, which I think are the big three.
Yeah.
And I still sit with the marketing seat. That's one that I've given it away, and and I don't like it because at the end of the day, with no investors, with no brand, the brand is ours, so it's very hard to have people speak our words for us. Or I have maybe I have a hard time with it, whether that's ego or not. But I think I want to hang on to that one for a while.
No, I think it's important that you're out there and you are the face, right? Because I mean, that's how it started was this, attraction to what you were doing and your history and what you were building. So I think it makes sense that you would still be largely involved in the marketing of it and people can connect to you and your story. So yeah, keep a hold of it as long as you have the ability and the capacity to do it for sure.
Yes.
To get a little bit more, because I know we were chatting before the call started, we kind of talked about how you use Trainerize and how you're using it for your 6-week program, your challenges and stuff. I know that you were also a recent ABC Glofox user as of this week. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear a little bit more and now how you've incorporated Glofox in addition to Trainerize. Kind of like how are you using, because I think lots of gyms are now kind of starting to use both. So yeah, like what are the use cases where you would use Glofox and then how would you be using ABC Trainerize?
Most of our members are monthly, bi-weekly type memberships, right? So 98% of what we do. So and then we're driving things from free trials into our marketing, right? It's pretty much, we don't really do any advertising. We like paid advertising, I should say, right? We do emails, we do social posts, a lot of times in story, just free trial with a link. They click that, which would drive people to our website. What attracted me to Glofox was one, we had to split all three gyms. So from a like clear, like so people understand it, something I would recommend if anybody was doing what I'm doing is all three gyms were kind of like under one POS before and it was very hard to figure out like which gym is making what gym is losing where do we need to work harder, where we need to like maybe pull back. But that was hard to see. So I wanted to clear, and also the marketing was coming in through one funnel. So it was like I had one person overseeing it with me. It made it very hard. Now it's going to go to all three gyms through the Glofox kind of like back end of the marketing and your funnels. So now I can have my facility leader and the guy who runs my sales kind of two eyes on it so people aren't getting missed and making sure that we're getting people in. And the information is a little bit different. So we were starting to struggle with like, if this is a Windsor client, we needed to get them this information. If it's an Amherstburg client, we need to get them this information. So now we're able to kind of seamlessly give that information a little bit better.
Okay, great.
And that was like the biggest hype behind it. And then, with secretly, and there's your like, you can plug this into your uppers, is like, I would really love to see where I only have to give my members one app. And I really hope that, someday that's the ambition of Glofox and Trainerize, because it would be amazing. Because,
Working on
be
it.
honest, giving a member two different apps is a struggle. And
Yeah.
how much the members loved Trainerize, and how much we enjoy Trainerize was kind of like really helped to push us towards Glofox because it's like we're dealing with the same people.
Yeah.
The programs look very similar. It's for us on the back end. It's been a lot easier for me to oversee.
Yeah.
However, this is our first week. We've been moving over. That's a big daunting task to move over 350 people and the details of their memberships.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sure.
and you talked about my team. They might be ready to quit after this week,
Oh
after
no.
doing it, because I have not touched one button to move people over. So they're probably cursing me as I sit here and take the credit for it.
It's
But
harder before it gets easier, right? Once
yeah,
it's
yeah,
done,
that's what I keep telling them.
it's done. Yeah. Just gotta
Yeah,
keep them motivated that way for sure.
yeah.
And so I'm curious because now you have your 3 locations, and we're not including your home garage anymore, right? That's just for your own personal use
Right,
now.
right. Yes.
Okay. Do you have plans to expand further, especially now that you've got this new kind of infrastructure? You've got your Glofox now. You can handle more locations. Do you have plans for further expansion of
I
garage?
mean, we set ourselves up for that. That's like, I think like the tactical planning is kind of always going to be there with me, right? I think one of the biggest parts in like, critical instance and tactical planning, and when I was doing all this the crazy work I used to do was always being prepared to take advantage of an opportunity because you know what it's going to present itself and it might never present itself again.
Yeah.
So we are there. So I'm not planning to, but I am prepared should the right opportunity come about. I think like we're thus the last gym our expansion in Windsor was a takeover. It was somebody who just, was no longer interested in being in the industry for whatever reason. That's beyond that, not for me to talk about. But we walked in and we took it over. I'm not really open. I'm not really looking to open anything from the ground up, like
A lot of work.
starting at zero again. I'm okay with starting at zero clients, but I don't want to like go through the whole equipping, arranging, all that stuff. So that's always the opportunity is always there. And if somebody's like looking to get out of something, we're pretty well connected and hopefully they buzz me before they just close and sell their equipment for nothing.
Well, I'm sure a lot of this comes from your law enforcement background and your SWAT background, but like you said, being prepared, because I think it's so much better to be in that position where you have everything ready and you're open to opportunities, because then when a good opportunity does present itself, like the one you're talking about with the takeover, you're ready to move, you're ready to jump, right? Versus having to scramble to get things together and then maybe letting this opportunity pass by, right? So I think that's a great takeaway for anybody too, especially for people I think they're looking to go from their single location, they're just running one right now, to taking that next step to grow into multi-locations. You have to really be savvy, I think, with those opportunities. So do you have any advice for those people who maybe are going from their first club, other than just like what you said of kind of being prepared, but what does being prepared, I guess, actually look like for those people?
Uh, I talk about parenting a lot. Like we have 2 kids and we always, when we had one kid, we thought it was so hard. And I'll tell you, one kid is a joke compared to 2. And I've
Oh
heard that
no.
2 is a joke compared to 3. So, make sure you do have the infrastructure in building number 1. We did a great job going from 1 to 2. 2 to 3 was a struggle. It's like I feel like the other 2 suffered with the third kid because and the third wasn't getting the proper attention either because we made a move before we were ready. It's all worked out and I'm happy we did it. I wouldn't look back, but there's things we could have done better, which was making sure that 1 and 2 could operate without me around as much. And they weren't at that point now.
Yeah.
If we were to, and I feel like now if we were to be presented with an opportunity for 4, we could definitely make that a little bit more seamless because of what we've learned
You
there.
learn as you go, right?
Yeah, so absolutely, I'd make sure that and making sure that your systems. I think the reason we have succeeded, something we did well, was what's going on here today in Amherstburg was the same thing that went on in Kingsville, the same thing that went on in Windsor. Like it is the exact same. It's mirrored, right? Sure, the trainers have flexibility we say like the program we put up is a canvas, they add the color to it. Sure, and there's different equipment a little bit, but for the most part, it's the exact same thing. So making sure that you have something systemized so it's repeatable is something that we did well. So we didn't do
Yeah.
well was having maybe the people in place locked in with responsibilities, and we did a great job of making a repeatable process.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, because I think every location, I'm sure it has its own little flavor, like its own little spice, but at the end of the day, it all still feels like that same garage gym brand, which is so important. It has to be cohesive, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay,
Absolutely.
well, we're almost at time, so I want to kind of wrap with just more of an overarching, more maybe philosophical question. Actually, we'll go to kind of a 2-part question.
All right.
I have you here. First of all, I guess, what is if you could pick one singular piece of advice that someone had given you before you first started? Let's say it's young Tony, you're about to leave your career in law enforcement, you're about to open your first gym. What is that one piece of advice you wish someone would have told you?
Huh. Um, Believe in yourself as much as I believe in you. That's a piece of advice that my father gave me. My father was the chief of police, and I thought when I told him that I was leaving the police department, he would be mad and upset after 20 years, and our family being invested there for 50 years, I guess if you throw his career on there. He was there for 36 years, and that's what he said to me. And I think that's where people, as confident as you are, and don't let the tattoos and muscles and smile fool you. Like, there are those moments when I'm not confident, and to believe in yourself as much as others believe in you is why we succeeded, right? And I think it was like hearing that from my father, and hearing that from anybody, in your life, that you're about to make a big gamble. For sure, that would be it, is to, like, when you go, you got to go, right? There's no
Yeah.
life jacket. Jump in the water and you got to start swimming.
Absolutely. No, that's incredible. Oh, your dad must be so proud of you now, seeing how far you've come with everything, I'm sure.
I mean, yeah, I think he's pretty happy I'm out of that industry. My mom is, at
Yeah, a
least.
lot safer in the industry you're in now, I
Yeah,
imagine. A little
yes.
bit less risk,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot less risk. So, and then
Yes.
last question I have for you today, Tony, is what really drives you to keep growing in this industry? Above all else, on those really hard days, those days that you don't believe in yourself, where you're making a big transition to a new software, teams stressed. What is that one thing that just keeps you going and wants motivates you to want to keep growing?
I mean, at the end of the day, I have, like, not in this office, in my home office, it's written down, and my mission is to, like, be a positive impact on as many people as I possibly can. And it's kind of like an infinite mission. So it's not maybe the best mission statement you could ever have, but it fuels me. And, I think in policing, I was doing that, right? And I never thought in my life that I would be able to make a bigger difference to more people being in this industry. So I think anybody who's listening who's in this industry, like, you actually are doing more, not doing it with the same risk as first responders. So I don't want to downplay first responders by any means, but you're going to impact more people positively because they're coming there because they want to be helped. Where in my old industry, maybe people didn't want that.
Yeah.
So that is like the driving force, is to just continue to help more and more people. And, like, I'm like just fueled by seeing people. There was a lady in here, she's 65 years old, and today she bench pressed the most she's ever bench pressed. How excited she was for that is just amazing. But there's the bigger stories, the people coming in that have gotten off their medication, that have, now don't need this or don't need to take that. Or, I thought it would be about those PRs. That one's special because she's a little bit older, but really it's about hearing people come in here with, like, literally life-changing stories, like, not PRs. Like, I can walk up the stairs without help. Those types of things are huge. And then, the staff, watching the staff, like, you know, to believe that, like, my family lives off this and so do three other families, that's a motivator to keep growing. Like, because I can keep helping them to live a better life, and I'm watching my children hopefully learn to do the same through watching me.
Well, they have good role models. They got access to the gym. They're in the right place. So I have no doubt they'll go on to be in some kind of field where they're helping people as well, for sure.
I hope so. I know so.
Awesome. Well, yeah, no, thank you so much, Tony. So many great insights, I think, from this conversation. So much you can learn. Where can people find you? Yeah, plug yourself, plug the gym.
You can find me. I'm pretty quiet on there these days, but at Tango One Tony, there's an underscore between the Tony and the Tango One.
Where did the
Uh,
Tango One come from? I was curious when I was looking at your personal
Oh,
account.
yeah, Tango One is was this the team leader's, like, call sign. Like, so when they
Oh,
called me on the radio, it was like, whoever's the, like, right now, whoever's the tactical team leader is called Tango One. I said I retired it with me, but I think they still keep it. Well, yeah.
gotcha.
So that was where it came from, and I was super proud of that because that team leader position was voted on by your peers. So it was, like, not really a named position. It's not a promotion. It's voted on you by your peers. So I stuck with that one. And if you want to find the garage gym, it's at the garage gym with an underscore at the end of it. And then you'll find all three locations. We just run it off one account, which is probably a mistake too, but, like, way easier than managing all those social media accounts. So I love that people
Totally.
went on there and followed.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Tony. And for everybody listening, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Definitely follow us, like, subscribe if you want to see more conversations with this, and keep moving forward in the fitness industry.